Okay. So thank you so much for being here with us. So our question is, how would you describe your latest article to a public audience?
Thank you so much for your interest in my article. I was following up on a general observation about education and what we ask of students generally, which is a lot of listening. So, listening, being the receptive subject to language, is part of the student experience. And in my study of a dual language, bilingual primary school, I was interested in uh, how children coming in kindergarten get socialized to be students, and specifically students of and in both English and Spanish in this two-way bilingual environment. And when I started really investigating and attending to the experience of students as listeners, it turned out to be an incredibly rich line of investigation. And what I came to understand in the course of spending a year in kindergarten with the students was that listening, first of all, we know is a very active position. We think of listening as passive, but we make choices about what we attend to, who we attend to, and how. Any teacher can tell you that. You socialize your students to pay attention to you. And when you think of 5-year-olds coming into school, how does that happen? And especially, what happens when you have a dual language program where you have children coming in with very different language backgrounds? So some children in the school are coming in identified as English speakers, and some children are coming into the school identified as Spanish speakers, and yet their experiences are not symmetrical. In this school, the Spanish speakers, the children coming from Spanish-speaking families, for the most part, already have considerable experience with English. Because they live in the US Midwest and they encounter English in all sorts of ways, sometimes within, but certainly with beyond their families as well. That is not true necessarily of the children identified as English speakers coming from English speaking backgrounds, who in this school, the population is much more likely to come into kindergarten, sometimes with no experience of a language other than English, let alone with Spanish. And so in this article, I explore how that starting asymmetry really shapes how children develop and socialize one another, and are socialized by school in this process to become listeners of the two languages. And what I argue is that, unfortunately, despite the goals of the school, that it ends up reproducing a lot of the asymmetries that continue to enforce the dominance of English over Spanish, in spite of the fact that the school is working against that. And even though you can hear children speaking both English and Spanish at school, when you attend to how they are attending to their linguistic environment and the choices they're making, you can see how English dominance just gets built right back up from the ground starting in kindergarten.
Thank you so much.